This is Spotlight with DJ Brex.
I used to be so scared of the dark and think, oh my gosh, the monsters are gonna get me, you know? So when my mom would turn off the lights, I would put a Bible under my pillow.
It's good that you didn't resist it, and yet you accept. Would you say that was the perfect decision you ever made?
After it, don't get me wrong, I'm still human at the end of the day. I falter, I stumble, I fall back, you know? But after that experience, nothing feels the same.
There are so many people who have died and have not gotten a chance to use what God has deposited.
Try to go back to your old ways, but it's not going to feel as good. It's not going to be as enjoyable.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that was the best decision I've ever made.
Yeah. People do say that the cemetery is the library of talents.
Ooh.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Spotlight, the podcast where we shine a light on inspiring stories, remarkable talent, and unwavering faith. I go by the name MKD, aka DJ Brex, and I'm your host on this show. I am very excited to introduce today's guest, a young, talented woman whose voice and presence have captured the audiences, both on screen and on stage. She's a gifted singer, an actress, and a passionate believer. So, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcoming the wonderful, the amazing Sabrina Mandulu.
Thank you, DJ Bex.
How are you doing, Sabrina? You okay?
I'm well. How are you today?
Not too bad. Thank you for coming to Spotlight.
No, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we are very thrilled to have you here too. So, I'd like to ask you a simple question. It might not be simple, but
it never is.
It's a very important question. Who is Sabrina Mandulu?
Oh, gosh. Okay. Above all things, Sabrina is a child of God.
Okay.
And then below that, she is just a girl trying to make it in this life. She's an actress, she's a singer, she's a daughter, she's a sister, she's a friend, she's many things.
Yeah.
But they all accumulate into Sabrina.
Speaking of being an actress, as you mentioned, so how did you discover this talent of being an actress? Because you've been everywhere, girl. You on the BBC episode, and you've been in some few movies as well.
Yeah.
So before we get to that particular point, how did you start into acting? Is it something your parents noticed at a very, very early young age, or was it this is something you're like, I want to do acting?
No, I think acting came later on in life, like round about when I was in high school. When I was younger, I was very shy. Wow. Really, really shy. And many people will think, what? That's crazy.
Actually, I've never known you to have been shy. I'm just
really
saying.
See, it's, yeah. I've always described myself as a natural introvert, but I have to be extroverted because of the career and the field that I'm in.
Okay.
But no, I used to be really, really shy. And because of this, I like to be in my own company. And within my own company, I like to play pretend. And I used to like to pretend that whatever film or whatever show I was watching, that I was part of that show. So whilst they're acting on the TV, I'm also acting in the living room. But this was like when I was younger, just playing. But in high school, I started getting more involved in like the school choir and then school shows. And I always wanted to stay in the background, but my teachers and other people's in a sort of like parental or like authoritative position, always tried to put me in the front to the point that I got used to it. And by getting used to it, I started feeling more comfortable in this position of being seen and being heard. And I was like, hey, this is quite nice. I was finding confidence slowly through this, through this pushing. And so when it came time to decide what you're going to do after high school, I had two options, and I was either going to become a translator or I was going to pursue performance. And for the longest time, I was going to just, stick with translating and see what happens with performance afterwards. But a choreographer that was involved in a music program that I used to go to heard about my two options and was like, Sabrina, try acting. Try performance, because you never know where it will take you. And so I took that courage from her.
Do you think it was the right call, though?
Do I think it was the right call to
try it? To try acting?
It? Yes and no.
How come? This is very interesting. I want to know why not.
That is a very good question. Yes, because acting is more than just performance. It's the study of the human state. It's the studying of how us as human beings think or feel, or how we navigate through emotions. And it's been so helpful in, again, building up my confidence, but also understanding others and why they are the way they are.
And you get to portray other people's character.
Exactly.
This is very interesting.
It is
very interesting.
It is. So I love that element of my training, and it's been really helpful in placing me in a lot of different job roles, not just acting. I can also be a teacher. I can also work as a coordinator. I can also work as a therapist or a counselor. You know, just like little taglines that are attached to this acting umbrella.
You finished school. You decided to take your teachers, advisors. Okay, you went into acting. At what point did you say, "Oh, okay, I've learned enough in was it school or university?"
It was I went to college after school, and I thought I've learned enough. But then my teachers encouraged me to go to university after that.
Okay, so you went to university. Final point, you learned. So at what point, how did you come to get into this first role where you ended up acting? How did you hear about this? Was it something your teacher said? I was like, "Oh, there is a role up here.
No,
it will be good for you."
So when you finish your training, you are then sent into the big bad world of performance. But at the time that I graduated, that world was not active because I graduated during the pandemic. So I had things lined up. I was going to perform at the end of Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which is like this, national festival where it took so much. It took so much from us. It really did. So when I left, I didn't have much options. All my options were taken away. However, there were still people who were trying to keep going. And so they would post on Facebook, on Instagram, on acting platforms, casting calls. And so I think I saw this casting call on Facebook and I was like, oh, let me apply for it, see what happens. And I sent in an audition tape. They liked the tape and that they gave me the job.
Wow. I feel like you've done very well in your acting. Some of the stuff I've watched, I feel like you've done very well. And I'm like, this is not the person that I know. How is she managed up doing all these things? Is this really the person that I know? But I feel like you've done a great job in your acting. And it's very inspiring, especially when you have people that you know in your community. And you're like, oh, she's an actor. She's on the telly. I'm like, wow. I could tell my kids and like, hey, that's Sabrina on the telly. Like, hey, you can go and do it as well. She's done it, you can do it. I feel like it's very encouraging and it's inspiring as well. Now, you're in this world of acting. How do you face your fears or your challenges in terms of, people are watching you and does that put so much pressure on you? And you're like, the world is watching me. I don't want to make any mistake or anything like that. But does it gives you the pressure to do even more? Or how do you handle that type of pressure as an actor?
So That's a very good question. And I think I can separate it maybe in two categories. So
Right.
I feel pressure the most when I know somebody in the audience. So I could perform to a room of strangers and feel completely fine.
Yeah.
But if I know there's at least one person I know who's in the audience, that's when I start to get, the nerves and the shakes. And I think it's just
I get that sometimes.
Yeah. And I don't know why that is. It could be that, there's just like there's that one important person, that one person that can, that I care about and I want to like impress them or please them. So I think that's when I feel the most pressure when performing. But this pressure of like other people are watching me, and to some extent, because you're in a performance field, you're setting an example, whatever that example is. And for me, I just try to be a good person and be nice to everybody, because everybody deserves someone to be nice to them. And
True.
that's all I can control, really. Apart from that, everybody else has, the entitlement to their own opinions, and hopefully they can take my actions and, receive it well. But if they don't, hey, I did my part.
Well, I feel like you've been doing very well with handling your pressure. Yeah, I think you've been doing very wonderful. And now, in terms of being having the fame, being known, okay, because there's so many people who watches you on BBC, correct?
Maybe.
I mean, if you're on BBC, everybody knows or seen you. Let's say, how would you feel if somebody approaches you like, hey, I don't know if you've had that before. Hey, I know you. I've seen you on BBC. When you go back home, how do you feel like?
Well, in that moment, I'm kind of like, what do you mean? Where have you seen me?
Yeah.
What was I doing? Was I looking like a fool?
Okay.
Those are always the initial questions when somebody says that to me. But apart from after this moment, I'm just kind of like, oh, that's so cool. I'm glad you liked it. Thank you for watching and supporting. And then I go home and that moment has passed, because for me, it's just a job. It's not really.
It's not.
I don't feel famous. People keep saying, "Oh, Sabrina's famous." I don't feel famous. I'm just Sabrina.
Okay. I'm not gonna lie. I think that is your humble opinion. I'm not gonna lie. You actually are, because almost every day I see you on the buses.
These buses.
I see you on the buses. I see Sabrina on the buses. And I'm like, wow, that's very, really, 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 really good.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Now, let's talk about your music career. Okay? You can sing. And when I say you can sing, you can actually sing, because I worked with you on some few projects.
Yes, sir.
And I can actually acknowledge the ability you have and the knowledge of music. And for me, I feel like people who have that type of ability, they are blessed, because even in heaven, there is no acting over there.
No.
But there's one thing, music. So that is a major blessing. I mean, having it double on earth and in heaven is actually a blessing, not a joke.
Yeah.
So when did you discover your musical talent?
Ooh, I wouldn't phrase it like that. The moment that I discovered that I could sing was in primary school, when I won the singing competition.
Wow.
And before this, I used to just
Is
sing.
that when you won a Grammy School Award?
No, not yet. We're waiting for that one.
Okay.
No, that was kind of the first moment of like, oh, okay, so people actually don't mind me singing and performing. So that's when I was like, okay, cool, I can sing. But then in school, when I just kept on, being included and involved and encouraged to do these performance, like choir, school shows, that's when I was like, okay, I guess I have some sort of skill or like grasp on how to utilize this talent, if you will.
Yeah.
So I think that's like, the more you do it, the more you get a handle and an understanding of it.
Well, you are a whole talented person. And in terms of music. Do you have any projects?
That's a
coming
very
up?
that's a very good question. Yes,
Okay.
I have some stuff in the works.
Okay.
And I'm gonna keep it at that for now.
Okay.
But I do have some stuff in the works, and I'm really excited about it. And it's about time as well.
Yeah.
Because I've done lots of acting stuff and I've done loads of music stuff, but the music stuff has always been in a supportive role, which I've loved. I've loved working with yourself. I've loved working with all these different artists and helping the inspiration come to life. But I think, now it's time for Sabrina. Now it's time for Sabrina.
Well, I can wait. I'm looking forward to hear. I mean, I've seen some of the stuff that you've been posting lately on social media.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you're ready to do your stuff.
Thank
Come on.
you.
You're ready to do your stuff.
We're
so
trying.
God loves a triumph.
He does. No, he does. And I feel like this year has been a very self-evaluation year, and in the sense of like, what have we done and what do we actually want to do?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, us as believers, when we get the chance to meet God, we want to hear that well done. We want to hear that, like, my good and faithful servant, you did it,
Yeah.
So I'm trying to leave this earth with nothing left in me. I've given all that
Very
he
true.
needs, all that he needs to this
Very
world, So yeah.
I know there is that people do say that the cemetery is the library of talents.
Ooh.
So there are so many people who have died and have not gotten a chance to use what God has deposited in them, or they've never put some seriousness into looking at what God has deposited in them.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's very important to search yourself and to know what you have, work on it, develop it, polish it, and use it.
For sure.
So, I mean, that's a hammer on a nail. You just nailed it. You just nailed it.
Yeah,
Now, in terms of your faith, can we talk about that?
Yes, we can.
How did Sabrina came to know Christ or believe in Christ? What happened? What was that thing that was like, hey man, being a Christian is a personal relationship, and for every relationship there is a point where you meet with that person. So
I think to some extent I've always known of Christ, but never on like a personal level. I've known of Christ and I've known of the power that Christ holds. For example, when I was younger, I'm still a little bit still scared of the dark. I used to be so scared of the dark and think, oh my gosh, the monsters are gonna get me, you know? So when my mom would turn off the lights, I would put a Bible under my pillow and sleep with a Bible under my pillow. Not like, I didn't even know what the context of the Bible was, but I always knew that like this is a powerful book. So I used to always put it under my pillow. And so growing up, I knew that, Jesus is a thing, and going to church is a thing, and the Bible is a thing, but I never knew the actual true depth of what all that meant until I started going to church more for myself. Because as coming from,
I think that's a good point when you say for yourself, because sometimes we go to church because parent is dragging us. So
exactly what I was going to say. So before I started going for myself, I was going for my mom, and with that came just like this feeling of like, I don't want to go to church. Why do I have to go to church? Until like I started making the decision, I want to go because I want to go, and actually engaging and understanding and wanting to understand. That's when I was like, this could be cool. This is great. I'm starting to learn more about Jesus. But it wasn't until, again, listen, a lot happened during lockdown. 2020 was a very crazy year, and it wasn't until we were on a prayer call on Zoom, and I don't know why, but I was just kind of like, Jesus, I am surrendering to you. Take control, do what you will.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, the Holy Spirit just took over and I started speaking in tongues.
Wow.
And in that moment, the only way I can explain it was like literally being baptized in fire. It felt like I had been submerged in this warmth that I could escape. And it only lasted like a couple of seconds, only a couple of seconds. But then when everybody said amen, I was like, what just happened?
Wow.
And afterwards, I called my friend. I was like, I just had the weirdest experience. And they were like, I think you just had an encounter with Jesus. And I burst out crying. I had no idea why, but I was like, wow.
I feel like it's it's amazing how you never resisted it. The point is, many people, God can visit them because the Bible says, I stand outside knocking at the door, which is the door of our hearts. And sometimes we can actually resist that and just say, no, I don't want this feeling. I don't want this. I don't want to accept this because, people can be so good in living the way they want to live, very comfortable in their usual life. So it's good that you didn't resist it, and yet you accept. Would you say that was the perfect decision you ever made?
Yes,
to accept the call?
I think it's the best decision I've ever made because after it, don't get me wrong, I'm still human at the end of the day. I falter, I stumble, I fall back, but after that experience, nothing feels the same. Wow. You can try to go back to your old ways, but it's not going to feel as good. It's not going to be as enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I think that was the best decision I've ever made.
Yeah. And I also feel like sometimes people don't want to accept the call also because they're like, I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect to do this and to do that. The Bible says, come as you are, come to me who are weary and burdened and I will give you rest. So your imperfection is a burden, your weaknesses is a burden. As long as you accept to give God that, because he's the only one he was the only one who is able to shape people in his way.
Absolutely.
In his the way he wants to view us.
No, absolutely.
So I feel like people, those who are watching and they're inspired by your story or listening, I just want to tell you guys to make the right decision, as Sabrina did. She did not resist it, but she accepted it. Despite the imperfection of human beings, God just wants us to come the way we are because he's the one that is capable of making us or prepare us to be what he wants us to be.
Amen.
So it's a journey. It's a relationship.
It is. It is. And I think understanding that it's a relationship changes the game. It's like getting to know a relative.
Yeah.
It's like getting to know a friend. And by referring it to that way, you remove all the formalities. The way that I pray to God is the way that I pray to God is literally how I talk to my friends sometimes.
Wow.
There's no boundaries. There's no limitations because he knows it already. And the funny thing is, like, that's the way that I hear him as well. Don't get me wrong. Like, I hear his voice through the word, but the tone that I hear it is Sabrina's tone, is the way that Sabrina would talk to Aaron, you know? So it's a relationship. Wow. And I love what you said about just come as you are, because his strength is made perfect in our weakness. We don't have to have it all together because he's going to take all of those little jigsaw puzzles and then put them together and then line them with gold.
Now, would you say that people who have important jobs, let's say like yourself, who's a singer, an actor, and you're like, I have everything. Why should I accept in this person of Christ, of God? What would you say? Sorry, that was my question. What would you say to those people who have these very high jobs and like, nah, I have everything. I don't need God. What would you say to them? Because you also have a good job as an actor. It's not a small job. It's a good job. Can we agree on that?
Yes and no. And I know I keep saying yes and no a lot, but for this one, it's a job. It can lead to a certain lifestyle that others deem as good, especially from the outside looking in. But at the end of the day, it's a job.
It's a job.
It's a job. But we must forget that. No, we mustn't. We mustn't forget that behind the job there is the person, and the person is what matters, and how that person is dealing with life and what they're going through and who they lean on or what they lean on for strength. That's what's important, because two people can have the same job, but because of their character, they do the job differently.
True.
You know, one person can, like, it could be a really tough job, but one person is giving it their all and persevering and still finding joy in this experience, whereas the other person is just kind of like grumbling and like moaning and like not doing the best that they could. It's about the character, it's about the person rather than the job. I believe.
So how does your faith helps you in these jobs that you have, whether it's whatever that job is?
Yeah.
You know, because people who are watching, they may not have the job that you have as a singer, you know, but they have daily jobs. How, I mean, your story can be an inspiring story to them. So how does your faith plays in this job?
It keeps me humble. I like to think that without God, this could definitely go to my head, because again, my face is on the side of a bus. That's a bit unnerving. There are people that have texted me being like, "Is this you, Sabrina?" And I'm just like,
not just on the bus. Your face is being and Microsoft.
Yeah.
Microsoft.
No, stop it.
Microsoft advert.
Yeah.
Dude, come on.
That is like,
Jeez.
don't get me wrong, that's pretty cool, but again, it's just a job. It's just a job. And for me, I could lose this. Okay, I have to take a breath before I say this, and I have to hold my own hand before I say this. I could lose it all, but as long as I have Jesus, I'm okay. And there was a point in my life that I couldn't have been able to say that and believe it, but right now I truly believe I could lose it all. As long as I have Jesus, I'm okay.
I like the fact that you put your life to the line for Christ, which is very cool. And the type of challenges you face in your career, what type of challenges have you faced for those who are looking to get into those industry? Yeah,
so rejection is a big part of performance, especially within acting. I have auditioned back to back to back and not gotten any job. I could have auditioned like 10 times, and then it was only on the 11th time that I got the job. So I would, in remedy to that challenge, I would just tell people to persevere and understand that it's not about you. It's not about you. There's nothing wrong with you. Keep going. If you need to take a break, take a break, but keep going, because it's not about you, and the right job will find you, you know, because his plans are to prosper you. So nothing is, even like a setback doesn't affect me too much anymore, because it's like, listen, better things are coming my way.
Remember, guys, it is not about you. Even if you're trying your best to get, you've gotten things right, you've tried your best, you feel like, what am I doing wrong? You're not doing anything wrong, especially when you put God first, and He's going to give you the right position, the right job at the right time.
Yes, sir.
So God is the master of it all. So if you trust Him, you believe in Him, you know, faith, it's basically believing and hoping, and, you know, just become crazy, seeing it as it's supposed to be, you know, and trusting that even if I don't have it now, I'll have it tomorrow.
Amen.
That's what it's all about.
Yes, sir.
Now, we've encouraged people, you know, your story is very inspiring, and it's been wonderful having you on this podcast.
Aww.
Unfortunately, we would love to go on and on, but we don't have time. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming to Spotlight, sharing your stories, your encouragement, and how you've managed to navigate through your daily life.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, we're so grateful, and hopefully we'll see you next time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Sabrina, for coming.
Thank you
and
for
God
having
bless
me.
you.
God bless you too.
Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and hopefully we'll see you on another episode. Please stay tuned, like and share, subscribe. All of these will help us and encourage us to keep on going on and on. Thank you very much. God bless you all. See you next time. Peace.